Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. I am so excited that you are listening to this episode. I am recording this at nighttime, which is honestly something I don't do very often. I usually don't work this late, but I am going to a later hot yoga class tonight. So I figured I would just pop this in right before, about an hour before I go. So welcome. This is a place where I talk about health and wellness and biohacking, and I'm thrilled to have each and every one of you listening on my episodes. So for this intro, I actually am going to talk about something that someone requested in my DMs this week, and it was an app that I have been using and posting about on my Instagram stories, and this is called the Youth app. And I've been posting about this and explaining it. And she was like, hey, can you talk about this in one of your podcast episodes? So I was like, sure, let me go through it. So this app is really cool. It's called the Youth app. It is actually not available right now, like in terms of like being in the App Store. You have to download it in the beta version. And I will link to that in the show notes. But essentially what it does is it scans your body and your voice and assesses your health through this 2-minute checkup that it does on your phone. And it is honestly incredible. Like, I cannot tell you how insightful it has been. So basically what you do is you open up the app and you click run full health checkup, and it scans your face and it looks for like a bunch of different things in terms of your skin. Like, it can actually like tell you how much your skin is aging and stuff like that. But then it also looks for other indicators of certain issues, whether it's related to mood, mental health, brain health, heart health even. And so it scans your face for 1 minute. And then the next component is it gives you an image, and you have to describe the image for 30 seconds and you speak into the phone. And it analyzes your voice in terms of like pitch and how quickly you're talking and the words that you're using. And I guess like if you're out of breath and stuff like that. And then it correlates it to mental health and things like that. And then it also has you do some other things. So basically it's like a health checkup through your phone within 2 minutes. And then it gives you all of your stats based on their research. So it will give you your heart rate. It will give you your HRV. It will tell you, like I said, how your skin's doing, how your stress levels are, your depression index, your anxiety index. What else does it do? It does a bunch of it does your blood glucose levels. And it just basically takes a look at everything where you're at right now. And it's super accurate. So the thing that I find it most accurate for is mental health. And I can tell when I have anxiety or I'm stressed, and then I do the scan and it will show me. It will say like, hey, like you're coming up, your anxiety is being flared, your index for anxiety is very high. This is what we recommend you do to reduce it. Or for example, depression, like if it seems like you're sad or not having a good day, like it has flared that for me as well. And so it's interesting because it really can call you out on maybe how you're feeling, but you haven't necessarily put words to it, or you haven't necessarily acknowledged like, hey, yeah, I'm kind of feeling a bit blue today. Okay, let me employ these mindfulness practices in order to kind of get out of this slump or feel better. So it's really helpful for people who are like data nerds or biohackers, or they want to see kind of like the proof. This is really helpful because as much as I love intuition, and I think there has to be a play between data and intuition coming together, it's still very helpful to see data like this. And then it also shows you over time, right? So I've been testing, every other day, and it'll show you like in the last week, 5 out of 7 times that you tested every day, like you showed anxiety. What do we need to work on in your life so that your anxiety is lower? And obviously, like, this is not a foolproof thing. This is not a diagnosis, but it's a step in the right direction for understanding more of what is happening in our bodies. And it's not just the mental health aspect. That's just kind of what flares up for me. but it can flare up other things like if your heart rate's really high, if your blood pressure is too high or too low, those types of things as well. And it really goes through everything. It also scans your eyes as well. So it takes a look at how red your eyes are, takes a look at your veins, all these different things. And it's really cool. So that is the Youth app, and you can download it. You basically have to go onto their website. I will link it. And then you have to download the beta version and you get access to it. So I would suggest you do that if you're curious. And this is the type of app that is definitely going to blow up once it becomes live for everybody and is obviously they work out the kinks and everything like that. So I'm excited for them, and they are, it's just such a good idea. Like, it's such a good way to do a health checkup without needing a wearable even, right? Like, let alone going to a doctor. Like, this is just such an easy way to do it. So definitely check that out. And on to today's episode. This was such a delight doing this episode. I loved having Steph and Eric on the show. Both of them are from Fatty 15, and they are a couple, and they are so cute. It was such a blessing being able to interview them. They are such a delight, and they're such a power couple. Like, both of them bring such a unique set of skills to this Fatty 15 company. And this is such a cool molecule that has come out. My mind was blown during this episode. You're going to hear everything of like the origin story, how they found this new essential fatty acid in today's world. Like, you would think that we have found most of these. You would think that we have discovered so many of the things that are in our food, but like, here we are just learning new things all the time. And it's really cool to see them be able to bring something like this to the market and what that kind of looks like for everybody. So I really suggest listening and also trying Fatty 15. I love it. I take one a day right now. And I actually just got my husband on it as well, because especially after this podcast episode, I was like, wow, like, it does all of these things in the body. So many of us are deficient in it, and we don't even know that. Like, we don't even know about this C15 molecule and what it can really do for us, and let alone being deficient in it. So I was so fascinated by this story, and you are going to get so much out of it. Just like the Youth app, I feel like Fatty 15 is like very much in its like early adopter stage. And I am so excited for the masses to get their hands on it and let it really transform their health and just to see the benefits from it. So enjoy this episode. It is actually going to be on YouTube as well. We recorded the video for this one. And that is something new that I'm rolling out right now, is YouTube videos of all of my podcast episodes, so you can watch and take a look as well. So follow me on YouTube at Biohacking Brittany, and follow Fatty 15. They will be linked everywhere. I will link to their products directly as well, so you can try it. Shout out to all of my favorite brands. I want to talk about a new one actually quickly called Mimeo. This one is really fascinating. I was approached by Mimeo a while ago, and essentially they came up to me and they said, we have something that is going to revolutionize the way that you look at supplements and the way that you look at fasting as well. And the way that they do that is they have created the world's first fasting mimetic supplement designed from clinical fasting research. And that was really interesting to hear, because we've kind of heard this in different places, but not in this way of like it being a mimetic supplement. So it has multiple components to it that really boost longevity for us. And I get into this later in the episode. You can hear about it. But for me personally, the way that I take this is I will have it in the morning when I have water or tea or coffee, and I will take 2 of these supplements. Now, it's really interesting to kind of see its effects, because when I first started taking it, I was taking it later in the day with food, and I actually didn't even really notice much of a shift or a difference. And then I started taking it in the morning, typically during this like fasting state that we're in. And I noticed a big difference. Like, almost like a nootropic vibe of I'm able to focus more. I'm able to have clear cognition. My mood was elevated as well. So that was really interesting. I felt definitely a shift in like daily motivation as well. And anything that kind of gets me through the day and makes me feel good, I am really interested in, and definitely interested in taking more often and recommending to others so that they can optimize their health as well. So that's Mimeo. They are new on the market. Definitely check them out. I will link them in my show notes. And a shout out to Inside Tracker. I just got tested and I think my results actually might have been the best results I've ever had. And guys, I actually, I 100% take responsibility for this because I feel like it is very much related to the preconception cleanse that I am on for 100 days minimum. I think I'm on day 75 now, something like that. And I have noticed such a difference. And when I got my blood tests done, like I got my blood test done, I think, I don't even know, like a month and a half into it. And these biomarkers were so good. And I was so proud of myself for having such healthy blood glucose levels, healthy hormone, healthy estrogen, testosterone, cortisol levels, things that I have honestly struggled with in the past, even being someone who is very health conscious. So if you want to get tested and you kind of want to take it into your own hands and you don't want to go through a doctor, Inside Tracker is the way to do that. You can do it at home in Canada, in the States. It's super easy. And they test over 44 different biomarkers. I really recommend this to people because honestly, even if you go to your doctor, at least here in Canada, like they will decline a lot of the tests that you request because if you don't have the specific symptoms or diseases associated with a deficiency of some of these vitamins or minerals, they won't test you. So it's really cool to be like, hey, I still want to get tested. I'm going to take this into my own hands and take responsibility for my health and do it. And that is why I love Inside Tracker. So definitely check them out if you haven't already. And a shout out to Armra. I have been drinking this colostrum like crazy. Like I said, I'm about to go to a yoga class tonight, and you better believe that I am filling up my water bottle with this Armra Performance Colostrum. It is so good. It's chocolate flavored. It's so easy to drink. It is a whole food. It is bioactive, and it is honestly and bioavailable. And it is honestly just so good. It has minerals, vitamins, nutrients in it. It has enzymes in it. And it is just far superior than whey protein. And they actually made an Instagram post on that. And I thought that was really interesting. So definitely check Armra Colostrum out if you're kind of looking for something to boost your performance, whether it is athletic performance or cognitive performance. It does both for me. So I definitely suggest it. And last but not least, shout out to AG1, my favorite on the go, supplement to call on and add to my water again when I don't want to bring anything else. I think AG1 is the perfect blanket to bring that is really going to encompass all of your needs. So for example, next week I'm flying to California, and on the plane, I will 100% be drinking AG1 because it is that powerful. I don't have to worry about bringing all sorts of supplements, all sorts of extra things with me. I can just take that, know that I'm getting hydrated, know that I'm getting my proper minerals, electrolytes, everything like that in it. And it really just tastes good and makes me feel good. So that's why people love AG1 so much. It's so popular. It's everywhere. Definitely check it out. And I really suggest you grab some, especially if you travel a lot like I do, whether it's road trips or on the plane. Anyway, enjoy this podcast episode. There is so many good nuggets in this. You are going to learn a lot. Trust me, my mind was blown multiple times, and I will catch you next Tuesday for another episode. As always, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, send me a DM on Instagram at biohackingbrittany. I reply to all of them myself, and I will get to you if I haven't replied. Sometimes it takes a couple days, but I do reply to everybody. So enjoy, and I will catch you next week.
Hello, my name is Eric. My background's orthopedic surgery and aerospace medicine in the Navy and Marine Corps. I worked with a lot of very healthy people, making them healthier. And I am co-founder and CEO of Seraphina Therapeutics, and our product is Fatty 15.
And I am Steph. I'm a veterinary epidemiologist, just working with the Navy, and we'll talk about perhaps the dolphins, work with the Navy dolphins, which wonderfully led to the discovery of C15 as an essential fatty acid. And after that, because of that discovery, that then led to, CEOing Fatty 15 alongside Eric.
Wow, you are such a power couple, both of you. Like your backgrounds, oh my gosh, what an inspiration. I love that. I am so curious about how you found this C15 molecule. Like, how do you find a new fatty acid that we haven't heard about in 2023? Like, that blows my mind. Can you kind of walk through that with us?
It's crazy. We'd love to take full responsibility for that. Brittany, but it's really thanks to dolphins. So I was at the Navy. Prior to that, I was at the World Health Organization as a veterinary epidemiologist, so helping to set up infectious disease surveillance systems right all over the world. And then about 20 years ago, was recruited by the Navy to help take care and understand long-term Navy dolphin health. And I thought, well, golly, I didn't know the Navy had dolphins.
Yeah,
let's start with that. And to be honest, I didn't know how I'd feel about that. But I'll never forget my first day going down there on the pier. Dolphins live in open ocean, San Diego Bay. They go out into the open ocean every day. Every day they choose to come back. And I thought, wow, there's something special here. So they take really good care of their dolphins. And because of that, they live, more than 50% longer than dolphins in the wild. So dolphins in the wild live to about 20. Navy dolphins routinely live into their 40s and even 50s.
Wow.
Yeah. So over about a 10-year period, as the Navy was getting more and more geriatric dolphins, we started understanding that dolphins age a lot like us. They can get chronic inflammation and high cholesterol. They can get arthritis. They can even get Alzheimer's. And interestingly, we found that despite these dolphins living in the same population, getting the same healthcare, some developed these aging associated conditions while some did not. So, and we even published a paper in PNAS in 2022 showing that there are fast versus slow accelerated aging dolphins. So with that, we said, well, gosh, let's apply this advanced technology called metabolomics. The Navy had the foresight of saving archived serum from the dolphins throughout their whole lives as part of their routine healthcare. So we were able to go through and find out of thousands of small molecules present in their blood and ours, which small molecules predicted the healthiest aging dolphins. So from that, there were about 100 molecules that we found. And among the top, there was C15.
Wow. So was C15 like the best of the best, like the one that was like really the indicator? Or do you think that there's more that you haven't explored as much yet that are going to come down the pipeline in the future?
Ooh, there'll be more. I think C15 is such a strong candidate and a winner for a lot of reasons that we'll talk about. But I think, as the world gets to transitioning these advanced technologies that have traditionally been used for drug discovery and moving it toward, hey, why don't we just understand nature and how nature's molecules work? This is just going to be the beginning. We're confident that we and other, scientists and researchers throughout the world are going to discover more nutrients that are important for our health.
The dolphins are a great model, right? Because they don't smoke or drink or have coffee like we do, and they only eat the same thing, and they're in the same environment. One's not driving a Porsche, and the other one walking to work. So it's actually a really good population to study natural processes of aging.
Let's talk about getting the remarkable benefits of fasting without the daunting commitment of long-term fasting. As a dedicated professional, always on the lookout for ways to enhance my health and well-being, I've explored intermittent fasting extensively. And if you're a listener of the podcast, you know this. However, I've often found myself pushing the boundaries and experiencing adverse effects such as sleep issues and energy slumps, and also hormonal issues. While intermittent fasting did offer some positive outcomes initially, like many of us, I struggled to incorporate it long term without it really disrupting my daily life. However, my life has recently taken a turn for the better, all thanks to Mimeo. This is the world's first biomimetic supplement. This incredible innovation is the accumulation of years of rigorous clinical research meticulously designed to replicate the effects of a 36-hour fast at the cellular level, which is wild. With Mimeo, I can now experience the holistic benefits of fasting without enduring prolonged periods of hunger and deprivation. Are you intrigued about the benefits? Let's get into it. First and foremost, Mimeo activates your cells' innate regenerative capabilities, much like fasting itself. This translates to optimized metabolism and better control over hunger, which a lot of us really value if we're trying to watch our weight. Secondly, it significantly boosts energy levels and accelerates recovery, making it an absolute game changer for active individuals like myself. Thirdly, Mimeo elevates mood and sharpens mental clarity, enabling us to be at our absolute best every single day. I definitely notice this, especially when I take it right before work in the mornings. The icing on the cake is that Mimeo's formulation is exclusively derived from molecules naturally produced by our own body. This means it is very, very safe because it is in perfect harmony with our biological system, delivering optimal effectiveness. Still not convinced? Mimeo offers a 100% happiness guarantee. That's right, there's absolutely nothing to lose. So for all of my fantastic listeners out there, if you want to give Mimeo a try and add it to your supplement stack, I really suggest you do so. And you can do that by using my discount code BiohackingBrittany for 10% off for the first 3 months of your subscription, which is awesome. Join me along with countless others who are on the path to revolutionizing their health with Mimeo. Bid farewell to the challenges of long-term fasting and usher in a healthier, happier version of yourself, which we always love. Thank you for listening. And always remember, when it comes to optimizing your health, Mimeo holds the key. Visit their website, linked in my show notes and on my website as well, and embark on your journey towards a better you now.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's so interesting. Like, what a interesting story. Like, I don't even know what to say, like from dolphins, like of all places to understand that. And then when I was reading through like the molecule itself and fatty 15 and everything on your website, I was reading about how it's actually found in whole milk. So like, how does that transfer from being in dolphins to being in whole milk? But we don't obviously get enough of it, even if we drink enough whole milk. So like, can you kind of unpack that for us and explain that a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. We found that dolphins have a secret stash of cheese. No, I'm just kidding. Under the ocean, there's cheese. No, it's the dolphins' primary source. So they get so essential fatty acid. When we talk about essential fatty acids, this means these are fatty acids that our bodies must have certain levels of to maintain our baseline health, but our bodies can't make it. Therefore, we have to get it from our diet or supplements. So, Brittany, your very smart question, where do dolphins get their C15? For them, they get it from fish. And we discovered that not all fish have C15 in it. And the C15 that they get from the fish is primarily in the head and the skin. So they don't fillet the fish and they just eat the whole thing. So they get a lot more, they're able to get adequate amounts of C15 from fish. For us, our primary source of C15 is just like you said, is from whole fat dairy products. It's such a reliable source for us, or has been, that C15 for decades has been used in nutrition research as a marker of how much dairy fat a person eats.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, though, that the milk that we have today is not the same as the milk that we had many years ago. And especially people are drinking plant-based milks, which are void of C15. And then when cows are corn-fed, there's less C15 in their milk. So the quality of milk now versus then has changed a lot too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Are there populations around the world that potentially do eat these different components of fish and more whole food that have higher levels of C15 naturally in their bodies than, say, like someone in Canada or the States?
Yeah, so smart. So there was a discovery. There were a couple of scientists, of chemists from Denmark, and they went to Greenland and they studied the Inuits, and they saw that they were super healthy. Like they didn't get diabetes and they didn't get heart disease. And they're like, all they eat are marine life. They eat, it's a heavy all marine diet. And so it was actually this team in the 1970s that then concluded, oh, fish are good for us. And that's actually what triggered the whole omega-3 fish oil industry was this, conclusion of they're healthier, so we should eat more fish, and hence fish oils.
Yes. And interestingly, in the dolphin model, we originally thought that omega-3s was the reason, higher levels of omega-3s were the reason they were getting better and not having as much metabolic syndrome. But looking into it further, it turned out that omega-3s were a negative predictor of their health, whereas fatty 15, C15, and these odd chain saturated fatty acids was the predictor of their health. So that's what started this whole, supplement and ingredient and, pharmaceutical.
Yeah. I love that. And I wanted to talk about that, like the difference between omega-3 and fatty 15, because on your website and in some of the research, you say that you can basically use this instead of taking omega-3. And I'm someone who has actually been taking both because I didn't know that, and have been taking omega-3 for a very, very long time, way before I heard about fatty 15. But I'm very curious about why that is and what that looks like. Because if I can take something that basically performs better at cellular function and helping with these different biomarkers and these different metrics that we're looking at, then obviously I'm going to do that. So yeah, I'd love for you to expand on that.
Yeah. I mean, we stepped into this super carefully, Brittany, right? Because omega-3s, fish oil supplements have been around for a long time. And so for us, it was more when we did the initial research where we compared C15, the pure C15 ingredient fatty 15 with the purest omega-3 for heart health, which is EPA. We said, well, let's do that because it's EPA, or omega-3s in the category of essential fatty acid. Let's compare these two. So it was in that study that we published in Nature Scientific Reports that showed that fatty 15 had 3 times more cellular benefits than even the purest, highest performing omega-3. So we're like, okay, that's great. And we were happy with that. As we started looking in further and talking with experts in the area or in the arena, we started understanding that omega-3 and this whole omega-3 and fish oils story it's the discovery of omega-3 as an essential fatty acid was like 90 years ago. So our science wasn't quite where it is today. And fish oil now is like, there are a few things that are clear. Eating fish is healthy, right? So, and the only thing you have to look out for is our lead and mercury, things like that for women who are pregnant. But overall, if you eat fish, you will be healthier. The second is if you take a prescription omega-3, these pure omega-3s, even though the science has been a little bit wobbly, it does seem to be that those can help with heart health. And what's really kind of fractured recently are omega-3 supplements, these marine oil supplements. And that's because omega-3 is what's called a polyunsaturated fatty acid, or a PUF. Being an unsaturated fatty acid means that it's fragile and it's an oil at room temperature. It has multiple double bonds in its structure, which is just a fancy way. It has a bunch of weak points that if oxygen gets to those double bonds, it'll oxidize and go rancid. In comparison, C15 is just a straight, boring 15 carbons. No double bonds. Super stable. And there's no place for oxygen to go in and be able to cause rancidity.
So what we told people originally was you need all your essential fatty acids. They're all essential, meaning you must get them from your diet. And if you don't, you're deficient. But after the paper Steph mentioned that we published, where we had a third party compare C15 to the highest bar omega-3, we changed and with the oxidation risk and what's really in fish oil supplements, we changed our tune to be like, if you can take fatty 15 instead of omega-3s, especially if you're comparing them to fish oil that's on the shelves. And so we believe we have the science to support that. And then, but as far as prescription, as Steph mentioned, if your doctor's prescribing you omega-3s as a prescription, Lavazza or other, you should continue taking that for heart health or hypertriglyceridemia. So that's where we stand today.
Yeah. And the last thing that kind of sealed the deal for me was that NIH, right, the National Institutes of Health, they have a summary page on omega-3 marine oil supplements. And it's one page and it's got like 8 bullets. And it basically says, based upon the science to date, the science does not support that omega-3 marine oil supplements do many of the things that we had hoped it would do. And so I was like, well, okay. So I think for us, it's just more like, I mean, we could have sold butter in a capsule and said, here's our C15 supplement, right? It's kind of like saying an omega-3 and it's fish oil and calling it an omega-3 supplement. So it's like, we'd love for to help the industry step up, the supplement industry. And it's like, the omega-3 has important properties, provide the pure omega-3, and
don't have a butter diet. Although there's good essential fatty acids in there, there's also a lot of bad, even chain saturated fatty acids, calories, other things like that.
Yeah. I love gathering data on myself, and I think this is so important as a biohacker, nutritionist, and just wellness advocate. I don't like making decisions based off of just guessing and my intuition only, but I like to have data as well to really guide me and help me make the most sense of what is going on in my body on a cellular level. That is why I test with Inside Tracker every single quarter or more, to be honest, and I love all of the information they provide. It is an at-home blood test. They take a look at over 45 different biomarkers, including minerals, vitamins, hormones, and really give you a big picture on what is going on inside your body at that time. If you're in Canada, they come to your house, they do the test for you. That's where I am. States, the same thing, or you can also go to a lab and get it done as well. And they also have a biological age test that is a calculation based off of your results, and that's called inner age. This is really fascinating. Mine is usually about 10 years younger than I actually am. So I'm always really proud of that when I see that result. But what's really cool is recently Inside Tracker has made great strides, and they've actually added new biomarkers to their ultimate test. So they've added things like ApoB this year, which is critical for like heart health. And they've also added 3 hormone markers, which is really important for aging as well as women's health. And I've spoken about that before. So they test like progesterone, estradiol, and your thyroid as well. And so now they've added something new again, which is insulin, which is the key biomarker for sustained energy and an early warning for several chronic diseases. So everyone knows how important insulin is and glucose. So it's honestly so helpful to be able to add this in to this test. I really suggest if you're dealing with symptoms or some sort of health issue, but you don't really know what's going on, you need to get data on yourself to make sense of it. So I really suggest doing something like this. You can order the ultimate test. If you use my discount code, you get 20% off, which is actually a lot because it makes a big difference when you're getting something done like this. I will link it in the show notes for you. It's also on my website on biohackingbrittany.com. And that is Inside Tracker. And my discount code is biohackingbrittany in all capitals. Feel free to use it, get tested. And honestly, if you have any questions about your results, they have an app that helps you and gives you a ton of resources and recommendations based off of your personal results. So super helpful as well. That's Inside Tracker, and it is linked in the show notes and on my website. Yeah, that's so interesting. I just love hearing about this. And to be honest, like I'm surprised I haven't heard about this sooner. If this is something that outperforms other essential fatty acids, and obviously there's like legality issues, and the omega-3 industry has a lot of big names behind it, and I understand that. But I'm just surprised that it took going to a conference to hear about this molecule. And I don't think anyone else has this molecule. Like, did you guys patent this and it's only yours? Or like, what does that even look like from your standpoint?
Right. And we're surprised too, because you figure once you publish in Nature and Public Library of Science, National Academy of Sciences, people should just know. And so we were actually moving this forward as a pharmaceutical to treat, metabolic syndrome, NAFLD, NASH, different liver diseases. And we were sitting with one of our mentors, and he's like, this is a natural molecule. Given the results you're seeing and the essentiality, you have a moral obligation to bring this out to the world. So we did.
We're like, no pressure.
and so we created a supplement to make it all famous, to get this message out to the world. And we named it Fatty 15, fatty acid, 15 carbons in the backbone. And we launched that very recently in 2021. And Brittany, it sold out in 6 weeks. We're
Wow.
ingredient producer of the year, fast company, world changing idea, front page of the New York Times science section. It's been great. And people are getting a lot of both long-term benefits is what we thought we knew, but they're also getting near-term benefits. So it is growing quickly. But to your point, it's still a baby and people don't know about this discovery yet. And thank you for helping us get the message out to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. But honestly, it's a lot of like biohacky things are like this in the beginning, right? It's like these early adopters are like, oh, you're doing something better than everyone else. Okay, I want to do it right now.
Yeah.
And then in 5 years, it's mainstream and everyone knows about it. And you guys have fully blown up and that type of thing. So it's nice to be like part of the early adopter team, hanging out with you guys. But I am really excited about it. And I also think it's interesting that there's benefits that, like you said, are short-term and long-term, because it's not always like that with supplements. It really isn't. I've taken many supplements that have long-term benefits, but you don't necessarily see or feel anything within the first month or first 6 months or something like that. So it's interesting that you have both, and that's a very marketable thing too. And people love that because then they can kind of see a difference. So I'd love for you to kind of walk us through what the typical benefits are in the short term and the long term that someone can experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that component, Brittany, like you're spot on, that, we had developed it because all the science we'd done, like 10 years of peer reviewed published research. And now, many others coming in with the studies, and all that's at discoverc15.com, all the science. So we're no longer alone. So that first phase of awareness are other scientists doing the work and getting the word out. So now this is the next stage. But so I lost
Long-term
my
benefits.
So we knew like there's all this data, right, supporting the long-term benefits. And so what we didn't know were the near-term benefits, because the dolphins couldn't tell us like, oh, I slept better last night, or like, my mood, my mood's a little better. There was an older dolphin who was part of the early modified diet studies where she got a higher C15 diet. And it was really interesting because the people who worked with her said, it's really weird stuff. Like she's, because she's old, she was like 54. And then, she's like, she is perky. She's socializing. They're like, what is going on with this? And so now we're understanding. So C15 is an essential fatty acid. Nature's done a really good job at taking a super simple molecule that is safe and allowing it to do a lot of things. It is able to do that because it works at the cellular level. So it strengthens our cells so that our sturdy little fatty acid goes into our cell membranes, and it literally makes them stronger. As we get older, our cells get more fragile. This helps our cells stay stable against that oxidative damage that happens as we get older. It also helps repair mitochondria. So our studies have shown that when you take mitochondria, you expose it to C15, to fatty 15, that it helps repair mitochondrial function, you generate more energy. The third thing it does is it helps activate important signals. So it helps allow cells to talk to each other and within each other, cellular signaling. And that includes things, we'll get super duper fancy schmancy here, but it activates these PPAR alpha delta receptors, AMPK, it inhibits mTOR. It hits right in the middle of the longevity pathway of you biohackers like yourself, Brittany. You're like, I know those terms, and it's all supportive of like longer life.
Yeah. And the nice thing is, if you get your 5-year physical, regular labs, you can see benefits. So when people start Fatty 15, we tell them, get your 5-year labs, which are CBC, chemistry, lipid panel, LFTs, and then compare them 90 days later. And what we see is people's CBC, if they're anemic, that improves. Their liver function improves. We see that their lipid panel improves, both cholesterol and LDL and things like that. And then we have some very cool clinical trial data coming up. And I will just say that for liver health, Fatty 15, stay tuned. And so those are some of the long-term benefits that can be measured.
Yeah. And then, so that's long-term. And then, but it can be measured and can be seen within 3 to 12 months. So for us, it's like, what's our retention with our customers? We have over 95% monthly retention rate. And it's because you can feel it. Like most people, 3 out of 4 people by 4 months feel a benefit. So those are the long-term. go to the doctor, go to your doctor, put fatty 15 to the test, right? And if it's not working, then don't take it, is kind of our thought. And then the near-term benefits, it was really fascinating because as we started taking it, as others started taking it, we started feeling and hearing from others. It's like, I'm able to handle stressful situations better. Like my mood is better. I'm sleeping for the first time in like 10 years through the night. And so it's just like, okay, well, that's interesting and possibly a placebo effect, But as we started going in more and we were feeling it ourselves, they were like, there's something here. So at the same time we were doing, because the research always continues, we're always doing more and more science. We did a study and we went back to the dolphins. And remember, you're like, hey, was C15 just by itself or were there other molecules? There was another molecule in that top group predicting the healthiest aging dolphins it was a bigger molecule, but it had C15 in it. So what we discovered was this molecule, which is called PDC, pentadecanol carnitine, but we'll just call it PDC. It is a metabolite. So as we eat C15 and absorb it, our body uses C15 to make the second molecule called PDC. What we found super duper exciting is that PDC is the second ever discovered fully acting endocannabinoid, which means that it activates both CB1 and CB2 receptors fully, the same receptors that are activated with cannabis. Yeah. But cannabis is external. This is something our bodies are made. So hence, better sleep, calmer mood, less pain, and then all of a sudden it all started kind of making sense.
My next partner I want to talk about is Athletic Greens. So I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every single day. And I first gave AG1 a try when I was traveling to Costa Rica. I really wanted something to support my gut health, boost my energy, keep my immune system in check, and really just support me while I was traveling and not home. I quickly fell in love with it. And now that I'm back in Canada, I still take it every single day. And I take it in the morning before I have any type of coffee. Typically, it's like the first thing I have in the morning. And it makes me feel just fantastic. I feel like I'm starting my day off on the right foot. I feel like I'm covering all of my nutrition needs right from the get-go, which is super important and such a healthier way to start than just having coffee on an empty stomach right away. So I'm just obsessed with taking it. And if you want to take ownership of your health, today is a good time to start. Athletic Greens is giving you a free, 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So those are the same travel packs that I took when I was flying. Go to athleticgreens.com/biohackingwithbrittany. That's athleticgreens.com/biohackingwithbrittany to check it out today. It's also linked in my show notes and on my website everywhere. Wow. That's so interesting. Because so many people struggle with anxiety and stress and just being overworked and overrun and like all of this. And it's great because like we're at a point where mental health is not as taboo as it once was. And there's a lot of people talking about it, which I would have never necessarily connected the dots of an essential fatty acid helping with something like that. Obviously, I know it can help with brain health and like that type of thing, but there is a distinction between brain health and mental health. And so that's interesting that it activates that in the body. And that's just like, the amount of education that you will be able to provide people on that. I feel like you're just getting started even in that space of the products and how you can help people with this product. Like I didn't even know that. And I know quite a bit about your product. That's amazing.
Yeah, we think so. Thank you. So that's another thing where we publish that in Public Library of Science and no one reads it. And so
of course not, like, goodness gracious. So yeah, so I just kind of like, and then it becomes like, and then it does this, and then it does this. And it's like, well, it's just too good to be true, like Steph and Eric. So then we're just letting the science kind of come out, be able to have conversations, people like you.
Yeah. For a lot more science soon. So
Yeah. But I will say exactly where you were heading with this conversation is that the question is, we need C15 in our bodies. It has a whole lot of benefits, right? Both body and mind. And we have decreased our intake of it. And so that begs the question of have population-wide nutritional C15 deficiencies not only fed the rise in cardio, in heart disease, type 2 diabetes, even cancers among younger and younger people, but is it also feeding the rise in sleep issues and mood disorders that we're seeing? That are we replete? And so we need to replenish are we depleted? And do we need to replenish those C15 levels?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you're spot on. Our food is lacking. Has such little nutrients in it. We also eat such a lack of diversity in produce anyway. Even if we are eating organic, it's like the same thing every single week. You buy the same type of lettuce, you buy the same, right? So it's just the diversity of nutrients has reduced, the amount of nutrients has reduced in our food and our soil and our farming practices. It's a systemic issue. And it's very multifaceted with a lot of different components to it. That's not an easy fix. It's really not an easy fix. So something that I kind of struggle with and think about is when I see something like this come out, like Fatty 15, and I hear about the benefits and there's all the research, I understand that and I get it. And so I add it to my supplement box of supplements I take every day. But then I kind of, a few months go by and maybe I'm still taking it. Usually I'm still taking it. And then I hear about another molecule and another supplement that does something in the longevity space. And you know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, but this does this. And, we don't get as much as we did 100 years ago. So add it, right? And so at what point are we just only going to be taking supplements and eating really crappy food? It just kind of feels like everything's a supplement now. I don't know. It's a little overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. And this gets back to, our goal, because it's a great point. Our goal. So our goal is to get C15 back into the world's food supply. And so Fatty 15 is a mechanism to get awareness. But ultimately, if you're drinking plant-based milk, this should be in it. It should be fortified with C15. And the nice thing about Fatty 15, C15 is it's so stable. You can put this in a bar and ship it to a third world country and it'll be stable and improve global health. Whereas, with other oil-based like omega-3s, you can't do that. So it's a very good molecule to improve health on a global scale. And so that's what we're trying to do. So maybe you won't be taking a supplement in the future. Maybe it'll be just when you're eating foods, it'll be augmented in those.
Yeah. Yeah. More of a functional food type of idea than a supplement. I mean, there's nothing wrong with supplements. I just think a lot of people get overwhelmed by how many there are in the market now. And I think the average person is kind of confused on what to take. Even if the average person has a mental health, maybe they have anxiety and sleep problems, maybe they're taking magnesium and CBD and now they hear this and now they're going to add that in and they're taking vitamin D and it just kind of always feels like the next thing. And so how do you combat that?
Yeah. I mean, one thing, we do, and what's nice is we've kept this direct to consumer. So where we have our website and so we can have that relationship with our customers who is growing. So it's not back when we started, but we are still personally answering questions every day. So I hope that never ends, but there is this need. I think it helps to be able to follow a person along their journey and to say, hey, you're at this week, this is what you could be expecting. And, Brittany, really getting to, we have conversations with people where they start taking things off. So instead of adding, especially if it's I don't know what anything is doing for anything, it's more like they take Fatty 15 and they'll say, this is the first time I know I took this is the only thing I changed. I felt a difference. I'm going to try to peel back some of these other things that I was just kind of hope and prayer supplements is what we call them. So you don't really feel it, but the science seems good.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's just more you should feel better and or your doctor should say, what the heck are you doing? You look great. Your labs look great. And if it's not doing that after 6 months and a year, not every supplement and not every drug works for every person. And so for us, it's Fatty 15, put Fatty 15 to the test. And you may be able to peel off, some of those, or Fatty 15 may not work for you. And if so, then.
And I think there are a lot out there of nutrients that do good things. And so I think, one of the major things when you're looking at taking another one is just to make sure that it's pure, that it's high quality, that it's not oxidized and bioavailable. And, there's a lot of supplements out there because it's not regulated that are not and are actually dangerous. For instance, we don't know when you get oxidized byproducts of the omega-3s what that actually does. There's more and more literature coming out suggesting that's not good. And so, we're right in that zone, we as an ingredient, and hope others, there are some as well that are there, which is, it is a pure, well-controlled ingredient that has been tested, that goes through third party and then some testing. And then it's put in a capsule. So for instance, what you're getting in the Fatty 15 capsule is actually 100% pure C15. There's no filler. There's nothing else. It is pure C15, which allows you to put it on your food, cook with it, put it in your coffee, things like that. And that's actually, as I've learned, pretty rare for an ingredient to be that pure. So when people are making the decision, just quality should be a consideration for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually going to ask what it's made out of because I guess it's not on the bottle, but on like what it says on the back here, it just says FA15 and then you have like the ingredient, I guess like the acid. But like, where do you derive that from specifically?
Yeah. So we had choices. So we went through, okay, how we can extract it. So it is in milk fat. So in 1%, about 1% of milk fat has C15. So we could extract it. That's cumbersome. And then it's not vegan. Like we wanted it to be open, to not be an animal product.
Looked at algae and fermentation and all kinds of.
Yeah. We looked at algae oil. We looked at, ferment and it all became very hard to get a pure product. And fatty acids like being buddies. so it's like fatty 15 is like the good person who like always dates the bad person. So this is C15 is like always with C16 and C16 is that even chain saturated fats, what we're used to hearing about saturated fats being pro-inflammatory and increasing your risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. And so it's in every food, it's always with C16 and C16 is like they're at like way higher levels than C15. So we decided it's just too hard to extract and pull it away from the bad dates. And so we kept it. So we decided, how can we make it bioidentical, pure, tested, bioavailable, and its highest bioavailable form? So we get pure C14, 14 carbon chain, which often comes from either like nutmeg or coconut. So it's a plant-based, but there's no like allergens left. It's just that one fatty acid and we add a carbon onto it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's the exact same molecule as in nature. There's no like one form versus the other. It's exactly the same. And in fact, C15 in foods is attached to what's called the triacylglyceride. So it's attached onto like a lipid branch. And so we can't absorb that. We have to use our digestive enzymes to basically pluck C15 off of it before it can be absorbed. The C15 we made is that it's ready to absorb. So
all the studies that we're talking about were actually all done with fatty 15, even the ones on the pharma side. And so what I've learned too is that's pretty darn rare. So it's another good point is when you're looking at supplements and the research associated with them, you can't just say, an ingredient in my supplement has all these benefits because this ingredient has been shown in other people's studies to have these benefits. It's actually, you need to test that supplement and see what the results are for that specific supplement with your specific ingredient. And that's what we did here. And so all the science on Discover C15, all of our studies are with Fatty 15.
I have just started taking Armra colostrum and I am so excited about it. Colostrum is a whole food. It is not a supplement. It is not something that is, only has one nutrient in it. It is a whole food. This means it has over 200 functional nutrients in it that really support your body. So they just came out with a new product. It's called Performance Revival, and it strengthens your immune fitness, rebuilds the microbiome, and accelerates cellular regeneration by refueling lean muscle and repairing tissue. It instills whole body re-strengthening for your elite health. I am so obsessed with taking this Armra colostrum. I take 2 scoops a day right now, but you can take as much as you want. Again, because it's a whole food, it's not a supplement. There's no chances of you overdosing or anything like that. This really just supports performance and really helps with your gut health. A lot of people swear by colostrum because of all the different benefits in it. And I completely agree with that, especially because it has so many bioactive nutrients in it. So it's chocolate flavored. It's super easy to drink. I just add a scoop to my water, mix it up, have at least 2 a day, and really do feel a difference. As someone who has had a lot of gut health issues over the last, 10 years, something like this is really important for me to use. And I love that their new Performance Revival really supports performance and athleticism as well. So it's great for endurance, it's great for stamina, and it really just helps with cellular functioning in general. If you're somebody who really values whole food supplements rather than just taking a single nutrient, Armora Colostrum definitely has to be on your list for that. So check it out. I will link it in my show notes. You can use my discount code BiohackingBrittany for 10% off. And I really suggest you start as soon as you can, just to start supporting your health in a very whole and natural way. Yeah, I love that. And that's really smart. To be honest, like it's really, like I was saying earlier, it's hard to navigate supplements. Like even when I go on websites, the marketing is so good. Like the natural, like the words that people use that aren't regulated. And then you just think you're taking this like beautiful, like nature in a bottle thing that's going to help you. But like you said, was it actually research? Or are they just talking about like the one molecule that has papers behind it, but not that specific supplement, right? And then how pure is it? Where does it come from? All of these things. And it's really hard to kind of remember all of that and have this almost like mental checklist when you're going to buy something for the average consumer.
Oh, it's hard. It's hard for us. I mean, to be honest, I was shocked and disappointed when seeing like other supplements, and not all. There are definitely good players in this field, but just surprised by folks that were doing exactly what Eric and you were talking about. So you just have to be super careful with which products you're using.
And we're all about good for you and good for the planet too.
Yes, you are. Yeah. And I do want to talk about that. You are one of very few companies I work with and have had on my podcast that really values longevity and also environmental sustainability, surprisingly. So like I said, I have a lot of supplements, and I almost never ever see refills like this ever. And you have a glass bottle that you can see here on camera that you literally just buy the refills and then you put it in the same bottle, which is a brilliant idea. And I don't know why more people are not making this, because it's way better for the environment.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's a little bit more costly, but it is the right thing for, this ingredient. We created what we feel is like the perfect ingredient. So we wanted to keep that through all of the customer experience, which is everything from what you're talking about, the packaging, to everything, the communications, that kind of thing. So this is the packaging that we thought would be the most ideal. So no plastics. You get this beautiful bottle that's glass, as you mentioned, with this bamboo top that's all sustainable and recyclable. And then you get pouches underneath the bottle. And the pouches are recycled material. And then you can put the capsules inside of the bottle, and you can use that forevermore. So the first purchase comes with the bottle and an educational insert and all kinds of cool stuff in there. And then the future ones come with a different educational insert, but also just the 3 pouches in a much smaller, package. And so it saves on shipping. It's every 90 days. So we're not sending it every month, and it's very sustainable materials across everything.
Yeah. And then, and it was really to the credit of the marketing team that we went to. Because we're just like a dirty physician and veterinarian and doing the science. And it was super sweet, because I'll never forget it. They're like, listen, you're coming to us, you're bringing something that is so high science, like such a pure, responsible product. They're like, you need to have a name and packaging, like everything that lives up to a decade, 2 decades of work that you've done to get us here. So it was really to the credit of a broader team of helping us as founders step up. And then as soon as they brought it up, we're like, oh my gosh, that makes complete sense. Like, let's own it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. I think you can really see your values through your packaging. And I actually recently had someone in my audience reach out to me and they were talking about a different brand, but they use plastic bottles. And she said, like, I love their X, Y, and Z product, but every time I order from them, I just throw out the bottle and then they send me another one. And it's just so much waste. And I'm like, yeah, you're so right. And then, I got this and I was like, this is the way to do it. And I think you're setting an example of how people can do it. And that's really important to be like leaders in the space and show others that there are different ways that are better for our environment.
Yeah, well, we are trying. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're always saying we can do our own team on a weekly basis. We can be better. We can always be better.
We are nerdy do-gooders doing cool things.
Yeah. I want to dive into women's health a little bit. I don't know necessarily if there's much research on fatty 15 in women's health, but I have a lot of female listeners. And as you know, the ovaries are extremely mitochondria dense. And things like omega-3 are often prescribed and recommended for women's health, whether it is fertility, conception, postpartum, PCOS, endometriosis, anything like that. Like, it's very often one of the supplements that is recommended and that I've seen in my practice as well. So what do you think the relationship could be of fatty 15 maybe supporting women's health a little further than maybe something like omega-3 or with things like pregnancy and fertility?
Yeah, I mean, with regard to essential fatty acid, I think this is where the rubber hits the road, right? That when you're talking about at the earliest stages of life from, and pre-life, right? So ovary, an egg to oocytes, and then to the embryo, and then to the infant, and mom, right? Mom's health, that essential fatty acids are essential fatty acids. And that's why, fish is still healthy, why DHA is still like an important omega-3 fatty acid. So absolutely still on that. What's been fascinating is recent studies. There were, probably great, and I'll send them to you, but probably 4 or 5 in the last 2 years that have come out specifically in this arena. And one study showed that the higher C15 present in the follicular fluid actually predicted healthier oocytes and healthier embryos. And so, the way it was defined were people who had deficiency in oocytes in their ovaries, that they had lower C15 levels. So it was an association of the higher C15, the less is called diminished ovarian reserve, right? And then, which you know better than me, this whole arena. And then the second study was with regard to embryos for in vitro fertilization, showing that embryos that had more C15 were healthier at dividing. They divided quicker in a healthier way. That then translates to then a number of studies that came out very close to each other within the last year or two, showing that so C15 gets from mom and it's throughout the body. So it's participating in the whole process. That when mom's C15 levels dictate her breast milk levels. And so baby gets C15 from mom, right? So if mom is C15 deficient, baby's more likely to be C15 deficient. And they did show that the more C15 that babies got from mother's milk, the better their growth, the better their brain development. So I think it's going to fall in line with it as an essential fatty acid. We need it from birth. Moms need to be healthy. And so having that essential fatty acid for ourselves, right? Regardless of where we are, with regard to pre-post and the postmenopausal phase, that at all stages, really important for women's health.
Wow. Yeah. I would love for you to send me that research to be able to read it and go through it. I think that's very interesting, especially with the breastfeeding. And I was wondering if it would be found in breast milk, because obviously if it's found in whole milk from a cow, like I would assume that'd be found in human breast milk. I mean, I guess it's not one and the same, but typically we kind of see that. So that's very interesting. So it is safe then to take during pregnancy and during breastfeeding then?
Yeah. So we went, and you want to talk about the
Sure.
breast.
Yeah, before we put this out on the market, we went above and beyond with regulatory. And so there's a whole lot of safety studies and generally recognized as safe status, which is an FDA thing. And so we wanted to make sure this was safe. So our current regulatory status is for 4 years old old and older, up to 2.5 capsules per day, and during pregnancy and while breastfeeding as well. In the future, we may be working on, because it is in breast milk, infant formula regulatory clearance as well. It is a longer process. So it's on our roadmap.
Interesting. As in like bringing it to kids under 4 and seeing what that could look like.
Correct. Putting it in infant formula, and especially since a lot of those are deficient and there's less C15 in our world, in our environment. So augmenting, infant formula with C15 would be good for health.
There was one study independent of us that showed they compared C15 levels in breast milk versus cow's milk versus infant formula. And they showed that infant formula had the least amount of C15. Breast milk, along with donkey milk, which I guess is a thing, that donkey milk is very similar to human breast milk. Those two had,
who knew?
Who knew? There we go. Everyone's getting to go get a donkey now. So, what are the closest, and so those two had the highest amount of C15. But the investigators, the scientists in this study, concluded that there may be a need to augment C15 levels in infant formula because of their findings.
Wow. That would be very cool. Yeah. That would be a very cool world to tap into, to fortify formula with it in some way. Again, to make formula more of a whole food and less of a processed food. Obviously, it's still processed, but like kind of to get as many nutrients in it as possible. That's super interesting, actually. Yeah, I would love for you to send me that research. I'm curious if you have taken this Fatty 15 supplement and actually given it back to the dolphins who haven't been or don't have enough, who are aging. Is there like a full circle moment going on here?
Well, this is the best part of the story, right? So yes, dolphins helped us discover this. Those studies were funded by Office of Naval Research and continue to be, to improve Navy dolphin health. Like that was their goal. Their goal wasn't like, hey, see if you can work on dolphins to help people. It's all of it to help dolphins, which has been amazing. So now they were getting more C15. They were giving them higher C15 fish. Unfortunately, the oceans aren't as healthy as they used to be. Fish don't have as much C15 as they used to.
Oceans are warmer. Fish have less fat, less C15.
So the Navy's come back and said, gosh, we need this as a supplement for the Navy dolphins. So we're actually literally in that process of developing, because they're a little bit bigger, so they need more than that little capsule a day. So we're working on that. And then wonderfully, we had a side patient, which was a Navy sea lion, because they also have sea lions, who's had chronic anemia. It helps. We've been able to show in multiple examples, including Navy dolphins and humans, that it helps with anemia. More fragile red blood cells leads to anemia. And so we just got early data back on our sea lion patient, in which he's getting better on fatty. So super fun. So yeah, it's running full circle. There's nothing more rewarding than that. Yeah. And then on top of that, because this is a Navy patented technology to which we have the exclusive licensing rights to bring C15 to the world from the Navy, that a percentage of our proceeds go back to the Navy dolphins. So,
nice. I love that. I really do love that. That's awesome. And I'm so glad you're going to be able to give it back to the dolphins in obviously the quantity that they need, because they obviously provided so much for us to be able to get this and use this. And now you can give back to them. And what a beautiful story that you're going to be able to share with your audience as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if people want to try Fatty 15, where can they go and how can they connect with you?
They can go to www.fatty15.com. And so it's really interesting. So because this is such a high science supplement, and we have a regulatory firm that helps us keep the disease-related treatment in one place and the supplement-related claims on another place. So that's why we separated. So the science you read about in as much detail as you want, if you want to fall asleep really quickly, that's on discoverc15.com, whereas the purchase the product and the supplement-related facts of heart health and liver health is on fatty15.com. To Steph's point, that is the only place. We're not going to be on Amazon or in shelves, anything like that. So it's going to be direct-to-consumer only, and then supplementing this ingredient in our foods in the future.
Nice. I love that. I will link both of those in the show notes because I think some people will want either link, the people who want to read the stories in the science or the studies in the science for sure. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. This was wonderful. You both are just so much fun. And I learned so much, and I'm so happy that I have this supplement to keep using it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Brittany. Appreciate it.
So fun. Great.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. If you're interested in finding the show notes or the sponsors for this episode, you can do so on my website, which is biohackingbrittany.com. Remember to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active. My handle is @biohackingbrittany. And if you're interested in working together and you want to email me directly, you can do that. My email is info@biohackingbrittany.com. And I look forward to hearing from you and having you tune in next week.